A lesson that we should take home today, and every January, not just on January 27th, but whenever we think about the Holocaust, is not that a bad person in power can do bad things. It is not that there are certain people in the world or bad people are gonna do bad stuff, and some good people are gonna stop them. The lesson we have to take home today is that what history teaches us is what the average behavior of an average person would be in a certain situation as a human being. Because, and this is even more sad if you think about the Holocaust, to take it that way, and even more difficult to accept. That's why most people don't do this. But what the Holocaust and the whole story is about is learning that the average person in that context would have behaved in the same situations those criminals behaved. And thinking that in that situation, well, you would have been the Schindler list of the situation, it's just ridiculous. I mean, to realize if you could have been the Schindler list of the situation, you go back, you look at the data, and you find that less than 0.1% of the population where those things happened behaved in that way.
Stern! Izard, Stern! Stop the train! He's here! Stop the train!
So you have less than 0.1% chance to be that person. And if you say that you would have behaved in that way with that determination, you actually haven't learned anything. The lesson is this. As Jordan Peterson, the great Canadian psychologist, told one time, the Nazi is you. The Nazi is the normal person. In the person that lives next to your home, is the person that takes the bus with you, is your co-worker. We are the Nazi. Human beings that found themselves to live in that particular culture, in that particular moment, with that economic situation, with that political system, that's the thing that would have happened. The end. All the rest of the story is ideology, is politics, is made to convince people to do aware, is made to make new alliances, make money. But if you want to understand history, you can't say that if you had been the Roman soldier, you wouldn't have killed Jesus Christ. Because no matter how Christian you are today, if you had been the Roman soldier, you wouldn't have even known what Christianism was about, because Christianism didn't exist. Then you were a soldier, so you were supposed to kill people. You were used to it. And not only that, but you were a soldier in an empire that had built the foundations of its success on war and the success in wars. So the good soldiers were the foundation of it for the culture that was taught at the time. You would have not known who Jesus Christ was. It was not famous. Christianity doesn't exist. You got used to do much worse stuff. So it's the context. You have to realize the context. You're not living in the same situations of the people you're talking about, or you're studying about, or you're remembering about. So if you look at German history, the foundation of Germany lied in Prussia. Prussia was one of the most important European states until the 19th century. And it ended at its best with the peace of 1872, with the conflict against France that they won. What Prussia built the foundation of its society on was the success of the military. In the society, everybody worked for the military success of the country. The end. That what it was all about. They taught violence, they taught the use of strength, they taught prevail over other people and other countries. So that was the cultural background they had. Then they won the war against France, and they humiliated them. They really humiliated them, because in 1871, they occupied Paris, and they proclaimed the birth of the German Empire at the center of Paris, in Versailles. And that was a big humiliation. Then you have the birth of the German Empire, the World War One starts, Germany against France, again, here we go again, and this time, Germany loses. Shock. Germany loses, and the condition of the peace of 1919 were a disaster, because they completely attributed to Germany the responsibilities of the war. So they gave to Germany an enormous unpayable debt. They would have never been paid. They caused inflation. They caused inflation at a level that never happened again in history. You had people working in restaurants that had to go on a table and shout the difference that the prices of the menu had every 30 minutes. This is history, because inflation was so high that every 30 minutes the value of the German currency, the German mark, would have changed radically. And so that's the situation, like, of hunger, of economic disaster, of extreme poverty, of total uncontrollable inflation that Germany found itself into, and German people found themselves into. That's what they faced. So they were psychologically destroyed, humiliated in any sense. French occupied the Ruhr because Germany couldn't pay back the debt. They were humiliated again, and it was a country that couldn't face humiliation. They were trained to humiliate others, not to be humiliated. And that's the context where things happened. You have to understand that. There was a great man, great economist that you surely have heard something about. John Maynard Keynes, that wrote a book in 1919, which came out with the title "The Consequences of Peace of 1919," and predicted that a third war between Germany and France, after the humiliation that Germany received from the United Kingdom and France after the First World War. That's the context. You have to understand that. You have to understand that what Hitler did was speaking what people were feeling inside, was reformulating what a person feeling bad needed to hear. And so would have followed very instantly, very easily. What Hitler acted like, psychologically speaking, was the mouth of the collective subconsciousness. It said what people wanted to say, needed to say, wanted to hear, and needed to hear. One of the dumbest quote that I've ever heard is the one that say that if every German had a gun in their homes, Hitler would have never taken power. Obviously, if you watched this video and you paid attention, you can demonstrate easily that that's absolutely not true, and that's historically ridiculous and false. So the big lesson for today and forever from anything that happened in history is we are all human beings, and what happened to human beings, what some human beings did, we could have happened to do it if just we had lived in the same condition they had. And obviously, we have to condemn these acts. But to condemn them really, we have to understand them.